Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys, and welcome to the Champions League draw 2017 to 2018 season, and we're going to have all the reaction and news following that Champions League draw for the coming campaign. Now, first of all, I want to go through the process, how the teams got drawn in, and then we will have a look at the groups in a bit more detail and analyse exactly what's going to be going on in the current season of the Champions League. But basically, the pot system by UEFA has changed a little bit over the last few years. The seedings are slightly different now. It's more based around instant success rather than history in the competition as a whole. So a lot of the league winners were placed in pot 1. That is the reason why we ourselves were in pot 2. Of course, runners-up last season in La Liga. So just to go through those pot systems, in pot 1 prior to the start of the draw were Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Juventus, Benfica, Monaco, Spartak Moscow and Shakhtar Donetsk. Then in pot 2, which I would say is probably even stronger than pot 1, or at least very, very close to being just as strong as pot 1, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, PSG, Dortmund, Sevilla, Man City, Porto and Manchester United. And then in pot 3, and it's really bad luck if you're in pot 3 because you could be drawn, as we've seen, with some very, very big teams from that first pot. Napoli, Tottenham, Basel, Olympiacos, Anderlecht, Liverpool on their return to the Champions League, Roma and Besiktas all in pot 3, and in pot 4, Celtic, CSKA, Sporting, Apoel, Feyenoord, Maribor, Karabag and Red Bull Leipzig. So those were the pots and those were the seedings going into the draw, meaning that nobody in those respective pots could draw each other. Pot 1 will draw 1 from 2, 3 and 4. You can also not draw anyone in the group stage from your own country, but in terms of British sort of allies, Celtic can draw clubs from the Premier League, so that will be allowed to happen going forward. So let's get on with the draw itself and have a look at how it unfolded. So let's kick things off in alphabetical order, starting with Group A, which was drawn out first. The team that was in pot 1, which got drawn into Group A, was champions Benfica of Portugal, of course. Then came out Manchester United, then FC Basel, then CSKA Moscow of Russia. And I think the one person that's going to be very, very happy with this draw indeed is Man United's Jose Mourinho. I think it's a really good group for United. They came in at pot 2. Jose Mourinho, of course, trying to build a team that once again competes at the top, not only of English football, but also of the European heavyweights. I think United here will be very, very pleased with the draw they've got. Of course, the teams in there can cause them problems. They're all very able sides. There's a long trip involved to CSKA Moscow in Russia. That could be a cold one. Could be a difficult away night on that tie. But I think Benfica and Basel as well, they're both capable of definitely beating those two teams. But of course, in the Champions League, anything can happen. We've seen teams in the past, most likely Arsenal, who've gone to teams like Basel, have underestimated them at home as well. So anything can happen, but I think United, looking at it right now, will be definitely very, very happy with how Group A has turned out. Group B is a very, very interesting group. The first team drawn into that group was Bayern Munich, and the second team drawn into that group was Paris Saint-Germain. A really, really attractive tie coming up there between Bayern and PSG. Neymar, of course, the big star now of PSG, looking to try to take them to Champions League glory. That's the ultimate aim for PSG this season, but they've got a very early test and a very big test. An established Champions League side under Carlo Ancelotti. Bayern do good business every single season. They're trying to grow, they're trying to once again dominate on the European stage, and it'll be a very good game when they take on PSG. Anderlecht was the third club drawn into that group, followed by Celtic, which I tell you what, should not be underestimated. Any trip to Celtic, go to that stadium, Scotland, the fans, it's a fantastic occasion. They always get behind their team. The Champions League nights for Celtic are their biggest nights of the season. It'll be absolutely rocking at Celtic Park, and it'll be really exciting to see how the likes of PSG do when they go to Celtic, and seeing Bayern there as well will be a really attractive tie. So that group is quite an interesting one to see how the two who can combine and get top of the group. But I think going to Celtic as well is going to be tough for both of those sides. So PSG, Bayern, both battling it out for top, but Celtic will have something to say about who progresses as the champions of Group B. Group C is another very, very good group. I think Chelsea drawn first into the group, champions of England, of course. Then came Atletico Madrid. Now, over the past few seasons, Chelsea and Atletico Madrid have played each other. They've played some very exciting games, particularly when Diego Costa was in Atletico colours. We don't know where he's going to end up at the end of this season. It still won't be at Atletico, of course. The transfer banned until the start of next year, but it's going to be an exciting tie between Chelsea and Atletico. And do not underestimate the third team in that group either, AS Roma, with a third team drawn into Group C. That's going to be exciting, seeing the likes of Edin Dzeko back on English soil again, once of Man City. Of course, he's gone from strength to strength since he's been in Roma, now under Monchi as well. He's been overseeing their transfer business this summer, so it's going to be interesting to see what sort of squad they can assemble for the current Champions League campaign. And debutants Karabag were also drawn as the fourth team in Group C to complete the group, but that is going to be a very, very competitive group indeed, and especially, Roma, Chelsea, Atletico will fancy their chances of progressing to the next round. Now we're going to look at Group D, which is indeed Barcelona's group. We have been drawn in Group D for the coming Champions League campaign. The first team drawn into that group was our old foes, Juventus. We drew them during last season's campaign. Of course, they were the team that sent us out over two legs in the knockout stages. Juve in that group first, then came Barcelona in pot 2, followed by Olympiacos. That's going to be a trip to Greece and an interesting tie as well there. Also, one of Ernesto Valverde's former sides, current Barcelona coach, used to manage Olympiacos. He's treated as quite a hero in Greece. He won the league title when he was at Olympiacos. And the fourth team in that group will be Sporting Lisbon, a trip to Portugal on the cards there, and we will reunite with former Barcelona player Jeremy Mathieu. Just when you thought he'd gone, we are going to be meeting Jeremy Mathieu once again in that group. But in terms of that group, I think it's good for us. I think, Juventus are a very good side, well drilled. I think they've had a disappointing summer. I think they've lost the likes of Dani Alves. They've had a few problems in terms of bringing players in. I wouldn't say they're altogether too much stronger than they were last season. I think if we strengthen in the right areas, if we can bring in Ousmane Dembele, if we can continue to add to our squad, we should be able to possibly inflict some revenge on Juventus. But those two games are going to be really, really decisive in this group. But I think we should definitely, of course, beat Olympiacos. We should fancy our chances against Sporting Lisbon. So I think, in terms of the group as a whole, the whole of its quality, I think Juve are a very, very good team. But I think the other two sides in the group we are capable of beating, and we should fancy ourselves to, of course, reach the knockout stages once again in the coming campaign. Group E saw Spartak Moscow drawn out first in pot 1, followed by Sevilla, who go in as number 2. Then Liverpool were drawn in that group, along with Maribor as well. And that's quite an exciting group as well. Liverpool, under Jurgen Klopp, they qualified yesterday after beating Hoffenheim in the qualifying matches for the Champions League. They'll be very happy that they've now qualified for the Champions League proper once again. I think once again, just like Celtic, the nights at Anfield are fantastic. The atmosphere in the European games is like no other. They've of course got big history in the competition. They'll want revenge against Sevilla, of course, who just a few years ago beat them in the Europa League final, meaning that Sevilla were in the Champions League last season and not Liverpool. So they will be returned to the Champions League, Liverpool, this season. They will have a point to prove. They will feel like they can definitely qualify after seeing this group, but I think all the other teams in the group, particularly Sevilla and Spartak as well, will feel the same way. Everybody in that group could beat anyone, and it should be an exciting one to see who progresses out of that and what the teams can do in that group. Group F saw Shakhtar drawn out first in pot 1, followed by Manchester City. Then Napoli came out in pot 3, followed by Feyenoord in pot 4. And that itself is a very, very exciting group, simply because of the football played. Particularly Manchester City and Napoli under Sarri, of course, play fantastic football. Man City against Napoli should be a really, really enthralling tie for football fans who enjoy watching fantastic football. That should be a really good one. Both of them have got long trips in there to Ukraine to face Shakhtar Donetsk. Again, another atmosphere there on the European nights. And Feyenoord shouldn't be underestimated as well. They've got a good squad of players. They had a great season last time out, of course, Dutch champions. So that's going to be an interesting game as well. And a lot of these groups do appear to be very, very tight. There are a number of teams in each group which can cause each other problems. They can all compete to try and get out of it. And that's what you want to see in the Champions League. You don't want to see too many dead matches. You don't want to see too many easy groups and teams brushing teams aside. You want to see ultra competitive. And I think that's why the new seeding system has possibly worked in places. In other places, you can see the groups maybe aren't as close. But I think in general, by, you know, pitting the champions against the second in the leagues and so on and so on, it does work. You know, you make it more competitive and you certainly make it more enjoyable for the viewer watching these groups take place. And once again, another competitive group going into Group B. Another competitive group going into Group G. Monaco, Porto, Besiktas and RB Leipzig all take place in Group G. And again, a very competitive group. Monaco, French champions. Porto, very much familiar with the Champions League format. They often appear in the group stages quite a few times as well. They have got out of the group stages. You remember their ties against Bayern Munich a few years ago and they actually beat them at home, so they could be a threat to anyone. Besiktas, we've all seen on social media this summer, they've been heavily strengthening their squad, so they could be ready for the Champions League fight. Turkish teams quite often do get to the group stage but do struggle to make that extra leap and get out, but they'll certainly be hoping that they can make the knockout stages this year. Besiktas and of course RB Leipzig cannot be underestimated. They've managed to keep hold of a lot of their key players following their breakout season in the Bundesliga last season. A lot of money has gone into their sporting project. They've kept hold of their players, they've spent money, and it'll be interesting to see how they come up against the big European hitters and whether they can get out of this group and progress to the knockout stages in the coming season. And the last group, Group H, is probably one of the best groups, I would say. Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Tottenham Hotspur and Apoel Nicosia. Real Madrid, Dortmund, Spurs. That looks really, really exciting. Good football, fast attacking football, really good partnerships, really good combinations, really, really exciting matches to come. Also add to the fact that just like last season, this time Spurs will be playing all their matches this year at home and they'll be playing them at Wembley Stadium. So you'll see Real Madrid against Spurs, Borussia Dortmund against Spurs live from Wembley. Those should be fantastic occasions on a footballing matter. And it'll be interesting to see who can get out of that group because Tottenham, so impressive in the Premier League season upon season now. A lot of young players, a lot of young homegrown talent coming through, the likes of Harry Kane, Dele Alli, etc, etc. But they haven't yet, you know, really made their mark, stamped their ground on the European stage. Can they do that in the coming season? And if they can get out of this group, that will be a very, very big answer to that question. So leave your thoughts down below, guys. What did you think of the Champions League draw in a whole? What do you think of our group? What do you think of our chances against Juventus? Do you think that we can top the group this time around? Of course, we do try to do that most seasons, and when you do top your group, you do give yourself a much better chance of getting a good draw in the next qualifying round, the knockout stage, of course. So let me know down below, do you expect us to top the group? I think we should definitely get out of our group, no question about that. We do have the better of Olympiacos and Sporting, but it's just those games against Juve. Can we get revenge on the team that knocked us out last season, or are we still behind them in terms of quality? Let me know your thoughts and your opinions down below, guys. I will look forward to seeing you with more videos very, very soon. It all sort of points at the moment that we are closing in on a deal for Ousmane Dembele. According to German, UK, French and Spanish journalists, we are very, very close to agreeing a deal, and it could be announced officially at midday tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. I'll have all the latest news coming for you right here and on social media as well. I will see you very, very soon indeed. But until then, as always, we're looking forward to the Champions League. Vesca! El Barça!